It is time for Food for Mood with Dr. Judy Wurtman. Judy joins us every Thursday morning. Judy is the co-author of the Serotonin-Powered Diet, also Simon Loses Tummy, the Kindle edition, and also Before Her Voice Was Still. And welcome in Dr. Wurtman.
Thank you, and you forgot my book, Journal of a Duck's
Midwife.
There you
go, there you go.
Journal of a Duck's Midwife, and we still have to get with Audubon on that because it is just, again, infinitely charming. It's on my list. Infinitely charming. All right, now speaking of infinite charm and menopause weight gain.
That's not charming. And many, many women who are going through their early 50s, late 40s, early 50s, and who've gained weight or find that a pair of jeans or a skirt that they could button around their waist 4 or 5 years ago, now in no way can the button reach the buttonhole or the zipper zip all the way up. Say, well, of course, the reason I have gained weight, the reason that my waist is has so expanded is because I'm going through my menopause, or just went through my menopause, and all that fat that was stored other places in my body that I didn't even notice suddenly migrated, overnight to my midriff. So now I have, a muffin top. I think that's one of the expressions that's used when you button your waist of a skirt, and then there's a roll of fat, not terribly appetizing, that sort of falls over it. And so menopausal women can be identified because many wear their shirts, their blouses, their sweaters, what have you, over their waistband. Nobody tucks anything in anymore. It's sort of like the menopausal fashion. You have your blouse over your waist, not tucked in. And so if you know about this from your friends or maybe yourself, you're just absolutely sure that there's something about the loss of estrogen, which characterizes the menopause, and the fact that you stop ovulating, that really does cause a change in your body weight, that you become fat in places that you really do not plan on being fat, and you can't do anything about it. And what reinforces this, you're talking about advertisements on television. Well, Jill, just go to the internet and look up menopausal weight gain, and you will be horrified at the pictures of supposedly menopausal women who are bursting out of their shorts or their jeans or their skirts, and the advertisements will say, well, if you are going into menopause, you must follow this diet, you should take these special pills, you should perhaps have these herbs, because otherwise you are going to be doomed to having a muffin top forever and ever. And it's really compelling to read the ads and hear even the personal anecdotes. And yet, if you look at the literature, which most people would not do while they're busy buying their pills that are going to cause them to get thin while they're going through their menopause, the facts don't hold up. There have been 2 surveys that I mentioned in the article I sent you, but there have been actually more, in which thousands of women have been, both in Australia and the United States, these are 2 different surveys, followed before they went into their menopause, through their menopause, and then afterward to see what their weight was. Did they really gain this egregious amount of weight? Did they really find that they could no longer, obviously, button their jeans because there was so much fat around their midsection that somehow migrated from their hips or, their arms or something down in the middle of their body? And the answer is no. That the average weight gain for a woman going through, let's say, the 3 or 4 years preceding, during, and after the menopause was something like 5 pounds. 5 pounds is what you can gain if you go away on a cruise that gives you free food and drink. 5 pounds is what you gain over the Christmas holidays,
right,
with a lot of parties. 5 pounds is nothing, especially, it's not nothing, but especially over 3 or 4 years. Most people would consider that sort of background noise. Oh, sure, I gained 5 pounds. But that was the average weight gain. And looking at the increase in midsection girth, midsection wideness, also no change, no significant change at all. So that people may be getting overweight, be gaining weight, they find their bodies changing, but it's nothing to do with specifically the menopause so much as, yes, women in their late 40s, 50s may be going through changes in their life that cause them to gain weight. Now, let me retract this for 1 minute. It is true that women who go through the menopause oftentimes will suffer from disrupted sleep, mainly because they have hot flushes, and so they wake up absolutely sweating at night, and by the time they cool themselves off or even change their clothes because they're sweating, they're awake. And so if this happens night after night, they're exhausted during the day, and one of the things we tend to do when we're tired is to eat to keep ourselves going. So that's one problem. The other thing is that menopause often is associated with an increase in depression. It may last only through the menopausal years, but it's sort of like PMS, except it lasts longer. And so depression can cause emotional overeating. I mean, not really clinical depression, but feeling depressed or anxious or nervous, and that can cause overeating. So, indeed, you may find that some of these symptoms of the menopause are causing you to gain weight. And if you're tired, you may exercise less. But on the flip side of that, women who go through the menopause find themselves often in a position of increased freedom. You know, their kids are grown up or else they're independent. They have more time to just say, go back to work or work full-time. They may have been working part-time. They have a chance to go into volunteer work. They have more chance to see their friends. They are given the freedom of doing what they want without being constrained by having a house full of kids who demand every extra minute of their time. They have time to exercise. They have time to join classes. They have time to do what they have been putting off doing perhaps for 20 or 25 years. And so that should really give them a chance to work on their body and their exercise and increasing muscle mass that will help them maintain their weight and not gain weight. But I think that the menopause becomes an excuse for doing nothing. We're saying, well, you know, I'm too old to do this. You know, I'm 50 years old already. And, you know, so of course I'm going to be overweight. And of course I'm too old to exercise at 50. And so they just gain the weight, and then they just blame it on something that they say they have no power over. That is a change in hormones. And that simply cannot be an excuse.
Yeah, and, you know, I think that going back to what Marshall was talking about before we this segment, which was the not entire honesty in pharmaceutical ads. I
Right.
think that there are so many excuses offered. That people subliminally that people aren't even paying attention to. That by the time you get to something, it's like, oh yeah, well it's just easy. It's just easier not to. And
That's the way it is.
Right, or that's my favorite. Well, nothing to be done is my favorite. So
or else you say, oh, I can take this pill, or I can follow this special diet that may have me, you know, eating upside down once a day, or just living on broccoli, or what have you. I don't have to take personal responsibility for the fact that I'm not exercising, and that since I'm home all day with not that much to do, you know, I go into the kitchen all the time and eat cookies. I'm not saying that people do this, but the thing is that by giving the responsibility for fixing you to somebody else, it means that you don't really have to take responsibility. You don't really have to think about the consequences of what you're doing. And so I think menopause should be a wake-up time to say, hey, you know, you may be living another 30 years at least. You'd be William Shatner going off into a space rocket when you're 90. You know, you have a lot of life ahead of you. It's only the midpoint in your life, not the end point in your life. And if you want to live it in a healthy way, this is the time to do it. Not when you're 80, not when you're 75, or you're already developing something like osteoporosis or what have you. This is the time for you to say, okay, I can take charge of my life now because I am the one who has the time to take responsibility for it. And the menopause is a wake-up call to saying, yeah, okay, get to it. Not, oh, well, I can't lose any weight because I'm menopausal.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have anything to say other than yeah, that's right.
You know, but I remember once, years ago, I was seeing a patient for weight loss counseling for the first time. I think she was about 49, and she said, when I asked her about exercise, I remember her saying to me, I'm too old. And I said to her, if you think you're too old now to exercise, then you better sign up for a wheelchair, because you're not going to be able to walk when you 30 years from now. You're going to have back problems. You're going to lose muscle mass. You probably have osteoporosis. You may be breaking your bones. You know, you are not too old. You are exactly the right age when you really have to be thinking about that. And the other thing is that women don't realize, because they have perhaps lost muscle, we all lose muscle from the time we're 30 on, is that you have to make sure you eat enough protein. It doesn't have to be animal protein. I mean, you can have these, imitation plant-based burgers, or you can have, yogurt, or you can have eggs, or you can have, beans and rice, or what have you. But you really have to pay attention to your diet and make sure that you're not just living on salads. Salads, as good as they are, a multitude of vegetables, do not give you the protein that you need. A salad for lunch is not enough protein. You don't have to eat gigantic amounts. 20 grams of protein, you can get 25 grams in certain yogurt, little containers of yogurt. But you have to eat protein. And if you don't, you may, find that your muscle is being lost, and you may find that where there was muscle, there is now fat take up the space because you're eating calories, but you're not eating enough protein. But it's something that you really should pay attention to. I don't think anybody ever tells this to women. I think you go to a gynecologist when you're in your menopause. I doubt the gynecologist says to you, hey, really, let's look at your diet for a minute. Are you getting enough protein? Are you getting enough calcium to prevent osteoporosis?
Right, no, but I just, we got to wrap it up, but I can't tell you how many times I've been handed the same, Xerox, tells you how old it is, list of things that have calcium in it. Like, yeah, okay, thanks. Right? So that's just, but the protein tip is a really good one. And with that, we will say, thank you very much, Dr. Judy Wurtman.
Bye-bye.
Food for Mood.